right? So
Yeah.
we're going deep on Autobiography of a Yogi today.
Yeah.
And this one, it's not like a typical biography. It's more like, I don't know, a spiritual roadmap or something.
Right.
We've got all these excerpts lined up,
Yeah.
hitting those big ideas. And why this book is always on those like must-read lists,
It definitely.
And we even found some quotes that'll really make you think, like pause and ponder kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah. That's what's so cool about this book. It speaks to everyone, like that feeling that there's got to be more.
Yeah.
More than just everyday life. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Like what's it all about, right?
Yeah. And Yogananda's journey, the way he tells it, it gives you a glimpse of that possibility.
Okay, so let's break down some of these big themes. One that really jumps out is the search for truth. I mean, isn't that what we're all doing in a way? Trying to figure out what it all means, our purpose and all that, all that existential stuff.
Oh, absolutely. But what's different about Yogananda is he wasn't satisfied with just thinking about it, He wanted to experience truth directly, like merge with it. And that took him on this crazy adventure across continents through different spiritual traditions.
That's wild. And that brings us to the part that really got me. The power of meditation and Kriya Yoga. Okay, so this Kriya Yoga,
Yeah.
it's not just sitting there humming, is it?
Right.
What makes it so special?
So it's way more dynamic than that. Yogananda describes it as this technique that works with your life force energy prana to like speed up your spiritual growth.
Interesting.
By controlling your breath in specific ways and focusing on these energy centers in your spine. You can actually awaken like dormant potential within yourself.
Oh, so it's like a turbo boost for your spiritual evolution.
Exactly.
Okay, that's pretty intense. But what about the more, I don't know what to call it, the more out there stuff in the book? Like the miracles and divine presence theme.
Right.
We're talking levitating yogis, healings, all that.
Yeah.
Was he really seeing what he said he was seeing?
Now that's where things get really interesting. The book presents these miracles not as like supernatural events, but as like the natural outcome of deep spiritual discipline.
Okay.
As we evolve, Yogananda says, our perception of reality changes. So what seems impossible to us now might be totally natural in a more expanded state of consciousness.
So the more we connect to that inner potential, the more the boundaries of what's possible kind of shift.
Exactly. It makes you question everything you think you know about reality. And consider that there might be so much more to existence than we see now.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's talk about why this book has stuck with people for so long. What are the top 3 reasons someone should read Autobiography of a Yogi today?
Well, first off, it's full of timeless spiritual wisdom, Yogananda's teachings. Even though they're rooted in ancient traditions, they're surprisingly relevant to our lives today.
Okay.
His focus on self-realization, finding inner peace, and living a life with purpose. It goes beyond time and culture.
So it's not just some outdated scripture. It actually speaks to the stuff we're dealing with today.
Absolutely. And that leads to the second reason. It gives you a glimpse of the divine,
Right.
Yogananda's encounters with saints, sages, those moments of like deep spiritual realization. They offer a peek into what's possible when we connect to that deeper part of ourselves.
Those stories are what really grabbed me. They make you wonder, what if those amazing abilities are inside all of us, just waiting to be unlocked?
Exactly. And finally, this book is a call to inner transformation. It's not just about reading cool stories, It's about applying those teachings to our own lives and taking steps to grow as people.
So it's like a roadmap to becoming the best version of ourselves, however we define that, right?
Exactly. It's an invitation to explore our potential, step outside our comfort zones, and embark on our own unique journey of self-discovery.
I like that. It's empowering, not preachy. Okay, before we go deeper into all of that, let's check out a couple of those mind-bending quotes you mentioned. The first one that stuck with me was, "Everything on earth is of a mixed character, like mingling of sand and sugar. Be like the wise ant that seizes only sugar and leave the sand untouched."
Ooh.
Wow, that's some powerful imagery. What do you make of that?
It's such a great analogy for how we choose to, interact with the world. We're constantly hit with good and bad experiences, but we have the power to choose what we focus on.
Right.
The wise ant represents that discerning mind, the ability to sort through the chaos and just take the good stuff, the nourishment, the things that lift us up.
So it's not about pretending the bad stuff doesn't exist. It's about making a conscious choice to focus on the good.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a mindset that helps you see the good even in the tough times, to find that silver lining, the hidden wisdom and beauty that's always there if you know where to look.
Okay, that makes sense. The second quote that really resonated with me was, find the joy within you, no matter how small, and start sharing with others around you. It's so simple, but so deep. What's your take on that?
This quote really highlights how connected our inner and outer worlds are. It suggests that real joy, it's not something you find outside yourself, it comes from within.
Yeah,
It's about cultivating inner peace, contentment, love, and then letting that joy overflow and touch the lives of everyone around you.
I love that. The more we grow our own inner joy, the more we radiate that positivity outwards, like a ripple effect of happiness.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that our own well-being is tied to the well-being of others.
Okay, we've covered a lot. Key themes, reasons to read, those insightful quotes. And it's clear that Autobiography of a Yogi is more than just a story. It's a spiritual guide, a source of inspiration, a glimpse into what's possible. But there's so much more to explore. What are your thoughts on the role of the guru, especially in Yogananda's journey?
That's a great question. And it's central to the book. Yogananda's relationship with his guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar, was totally transformative. It wasn't just about learning techniques. It was about building a deep connection with a realized soul who could guide him on his spiritual path.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little more. What does it actually mean to have a guru? And is it essential for spiritual growth?
Hmm. Well, the idea of a guru in Eastern traditions, it's more than just being a teacher.
Right.
It's like a spiritual mentor, someone who's been there, done that, and can guide you through the tough parts.
Let's see.
In Yogananda's case, his guru wasn't just teaching. He was awakening Yogananda's own inner potential.
So it's less about blind obedience
Yeah.
and more about finding someone who can,
Well,
light the way for you.
exactly. It's about realizing we don't have to figure it all out alone. There's so much wisdom and experience passed down over generations, and a guru can help us connect with that lineage.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having a spiritual compass
Hmm.
to help you navigate, those sometimes murky waters of self-discovery.
Yeah.
But do you need a physical guru, like in person, to reach enlightenment or whatever you want to call it?
That's a great question. And the book offers some interesting perspectives on that.
Mm.
While Yogananda clearly benefited from his relationship with Swami Sri Yukteswar, he also says that the true guru is inside each of us.
Oh, interesting.
He calls it the Sat Guru, the divine inner guide.
So it's more about cultivating that inner connection, that inner wisdom, whether or not you have a physical guru.
Exactly. And that's where things like meditation and Kriya Yoga come in. They help quiet the mind and tune into that inner voice, that intuition that can guide us on our path.
Okay, I'm starting to see how all these themes tie together. It's not just about learning techniques or reading about miracles. It's about cultivating that inner awareness, that connection to something bigger than ourselves. But speaking of miracles, we talked earlier about those seemingly impossible feats. You mentioned they weren't meant to be seen as supernatural, but as like the natural outcome of spiritual evolution. Can you elaborate on that a bit?
Sure. What I found fascinating is how Yogananda presents these miracles, not as something to chase after, but as a byproduct of aligning yourself with the laws of the universe. It's not about bending spoons with your mind, but about expanding your consciousness to a point where limitations just dissolve and possibilities that seemed impossible become accessible.
So it's like the more we tap into that universal energy, that
Mhm.
divine essence within us, the more those miracles become just an expression of that connection.
Exactly. It's about realizing that we are not separate from the source of creation, that we are essentially part of that divine tapestry. And as we deepen that realization, our perception of what's possible just explodes.
Okay, mind blown again. But I got to admit, some of these concepts can feel a bit abstract,
Hmm.
a bit out there. What do you think it is about Autobiography of a Yogi
Hmm.
that makes it so relatable, so impactful, even for people who might not consider themselves spiritual?
I think it's the way Yogananda bridges Eastern and Western perspectives. He was great at explaining these ancient teachings in a way that made sense to a modern audience. He didn't shy away from the scientific side of spirituality. He embraced it.
Interesting.
He talked about the energy systems of the body, the power of the mind, the interconnectedness of everything.
So he wasn't just promoting blind faith. He was encouraging people to explore these ideas with an open mind, to connect the dots between science and spirituality.
Absolutely. And that's why his message still resonates today, I think. We live in a world where science and technology are advancing so fast. but people are also looking for meaning, for purpose, for a connection to something bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
Yogananda's teachings offer a way to bridge that gap, to integrate spirituality into our modern lives.
I like that. It's not about rejecting the modern world. It's about enriching it with a deeper understanding of who we are and our place in the universe.
Yeah.
And speaking of enriching our understanding, let's go back to those powerful quotes we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
That first one about being like the wise ant, choosing the sugar and then leaving the sand. It's been stuck in my head all day. What makes that analogy so powerful, do you think?
I think it speaks to the power of choice. We're constantly bombarded with information, stimulation, experiences, both good and bad. But we have the power to choose what we focus on, what we internalize, what we allow to shape our view of the world.
Yeah.
The wise ant reminds us that we don't have to be victims of circumstance. We can actively choose to focus on the good, the beautiful, the inspiring parts of life, and let go of the negativity that weighs us down.
So it's like training your mind to be a positivity magnet, attracting the good vibes and deflecting the bad.
Exactly. It's about cultivating gratitude, appreciation, focusing on the abundance that's all around us, even when things are tough.
Okay, I love that. And what about that second quote? The one about finding joy within and sharing it with others. What makes that message so powerful?
This quote goes right to the heart of Yogananda's teachings. The idea that true joy doesn't come from outside sources. It comes from within. It's about cultivating inner peace, contentment, and love, and then letting that joy flow out and touch everyone around you.
It's like the more we nurture that inner flame of joy, the brighter it shines, illuminating not only our own path, but also the paths of those we meet.
Beautifully said. And that's the essence of spiritual growth. It's not about isolating yourself in some spiritual bubble. It's about shining that inner light outwards, making the world a more joyful, compassionate, and loving place.
I love that. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want listeners to ponder?
If Yogananda believed that we all have this divine potential, waiting to be unlocked, what steps can you take to explore that potential in your own life? Maybe it's committing to daily meditation, or finding a teacher, or even just being more present in your everyday interactions. The journey begins with a single step.
That's a great point. It's not about becoming a guru overnight. It's about taking those small steps, those daily practices that gradually lead us to greater self-awareness and connection.
Yeah.
Right, we've covered a lot here, but there's still so much more to uncover in Autobiography of a Yogi. We'll be right back after a short break. To wrap up our exploration of this incredible book, stay tuned.
Well, the concept of a guru, in Eastern traditions, it goes beyond just being a teacher. It's
Right.
more like a spiritual mentor, someone who has walked the path and can guide you through those like pitfalls and challenges.
I see.
In Yogananda's case, his guru wasn't just giving him information. He was like awakening Yogananda's own potential.
So it's less about blindly following and more about finding someone who can illuminate the path.
Exactly. It's about realizing we don't have to do it all on our own. There's this wealth of wisdom and experience passed down through generations.
Right.
And a guru can help us tap into that.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like having a spiritual compass
Yeah.
to help navigate those sometimes murky waters of self-discovery.
Yeah.
But do you need a physical guru, like someone in person, to reach enlightenment or whatever you want to call it?
That's a great question. And the book actually offers some interesting ideas about that. While Yogananda clearly benefited from that direct relationship with Swami Sri Yukteswar, he also suggests that the true guru is within each of us.
Huh? Interesting.
He calls it the Satguru, the divine inner guide.
So it's more about cultivating that inner connection,
Yeah.
that inner wisdom, whether or not you have a physical guru in your life.
Precisely. And that's where practices like meditation and Kriya Yoga come in. They help us quiet the mind,
Right.
and tune into that inner voice, that intuition that can guide us.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these themes all connect. It's not just about learning techniques or reading about miracles. It's about cultivating that inner awareness, that connection to something bigger than ourselves. But speaking of miracles, we talked earlier about those seemingly impossible things described in the book. You mentioned they weren't meant to be seen as supernatural, but as like the natural outcome of spiritual evolution. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. What fascinated me was how Yogananda presents these miracles, not as something to be sought after,
Okay.
but as a byproduct of aligning yourself with the laws of the universe. It's not about, bending spoons with your mind, but about expanding your consciousness to a point where limitations disappear and possibilities that seemed impossible become accessible.
So the more we tap into that universal energy, the divine essence within us, the more those miracles become just an expression of that connection.
Exactly. It's about realizing we are not separate from the source of creation. We are, in essence, part of that divine tapestry. And as we deepen that realization, our perception of what's possible just expands exponentially.
Okay, mind blown again. But,
Mhm.
I have to admit, some of these concepts can feel a bit abstract, a bit out there, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you think it is about Autobiography of a Yogi
Mm.
that makes it so relatable, so impactful, even for people who wouldn't call themselves spiritual?
I think one reason is
Yeah.
the way Yogananda connects Eastern and Western perspectives. He was a master at translating these ancient teachings into a language that resonated with modern people.
Interesting.
He didn't shy away from the scientific aspects of spirituality. He embraced them.
Hmm.
He talked about energy systems in the body, the power of the mind, the interconnectedness of all things.
So he wasn't promoting blind faith. He was encouraging people to explore these ideas with an open mind, to connect the dots between science and spirituality.
Absolutely, and I think that's why his message still speaks to us today. We live in a world with rapidly advancing science and technology, but many people are also searching for meaning, for purpose, for a connection to something bigger.
Yeah.
Yogananda's teachings offer a way to bridge that gap, to bring spirituality into our modern lives.
I like that. It's not about rejecting the modern world, it's about enriching it with a deeper understanding of who we are
Hmm?
and our place in the universe. And speaking of enriching our understanding, let's revisit those powerful quotes. That first one about being like the wise ant, choosing the sugar and leaving the sand, has been stuck in my head. What makes that analogy so powerful, do you think?
I think it speaks to our power of choice. We're constantly bombarded with information, stimulation, experiences, good and bad.
Right.
But we have the power to choose what we focus on, what we internalize, what we allow to shape our view of the world.
Right.
The wise ant reminds us we don't have to be victims of circumstance. We can choose to focus on the good, the beauty, the inspiration in life, and let go of the negativity.
So it's like training your mind to be a positivity magnet, attracting the good and repelling the bad.
Exactly. It's about cultivating gratitude, appreciation, focusing on the abundance all around us, even when things are tough.
Okay, I love that. And what about that second quote, the one about finding joy within and sharing it with others? What makes that so resonant?
This quote really gets to the core of Yogananda's teachings, the idea that true joy isn't something we find externally.
Right.
It comes from within. It's about cultivating inner peace, contentment, love, and then letting that joy overflow and touch those around us.
It's like the more we nurture that inner flame of joy, the brighter it shines, illuminating not only our own path, but also the paths of those we meet.
Beautifully said. That's the essence of spiritual growth. It's not about isolating ourselves in some spiritual bubble. It's about letting that inner light shine out, making the world a more joyful, compassionate, and loving place.
I love that. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you hope listeners will ponder?
If Yogananda believed that we all have this divine potential, waiting to be unlocked, what steps can you take to explore that potential? Maybe it's a daily meditation practice. Maybe it's finding a teacher, or even just being more present in your everyday life. The journey starts with a single step.
That's a great point. It's not about becoming enlightened overnight. It's about taking those small steps, those daily actions that gradually lead to greater self-awareness and connection.
Exactly.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's still so much more to explore in Autobiography of a Yogi. So we'll be right back after a quick break. To wrap up our deep dive into this incredible book, stay tuned. And we're back. I don't know about you, but my mind is, still processing all that from the last part.
Yeah.
It's amazing how Yogananda's ideas are still relevant today,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like they're still impacting people.
It really shows the power of his message. We mentioned Steve Jobs before,
Yeah.
and how he reread Autobiography of a Yogi every year. That says a lot, I think, about how much Yogananda's vision resonated with him, someone who was, at the forefront of innovation and technology.
Right. That's what I find so interesting. It's not just a book for, spiritual seekers hiding away in a monastery.
Yeah,
It's inspired all kinds of people, artists, entrepreneurs, scientists,
exactly.
people who are actively shaping the world.
And that speaks to Yogananda's belief that spirituality isn't about withdrawing from the world. It's about bringing those principles, self-awareness, compassion, purpose, into every part of our lives.
Like integrating that inner wisdom with our actions. Not just talking the talk, but walking the walk.
Exactly. That's where the real transformation happens, both for individuals and for society as a whole.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Autobiography of Yogi, what's the one thing you hope listeners will take away from this?
If Yogananda believed that we all have this divine potential, just waiting to be unlocked, what can you do to explore that potential? Is it a daily meditation practice, finding a teacher, or just being more present in your daily life? The journey starts with a single step.
I love that. It's not about becoming enlightened overnight. It's about those small, consistent actions, the choices we make every day, that gradually lead us towards a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
And who knows what amazing discoveries you'll make along the way.
Exactly. So if you haven't already, I highly recommend checking out Autobiography of Yogi. You might just find it's the spark that ignites your own journey of self-discovery.
It's definitely a journey worth taking.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep.